I think my favorite, and you can re-roll it if you can't find anything that you like, had to be demonic sex. Imagine having that as your alias, your nickname. My character's nickname, hello, nice to meet you, I'm demonic sex. So today here on the channel, I'm asking the question, what do you feel is the quirkiest, the weirdest, the strangest role-playing game you've played on a computer system? What do you reckon that could be? And it could be an old game, it could be a new game, it could be on a system that no longer exists. But the reason why I'm asking this question is because I have finally found the answer to last week's question. I put it out there. I was trying to find the name of a very, very quirky role-playing game. I have since learnt, thanks to the power of YouTube and the amazing people on it, what that game is called. And revisiting it earlier this week, I completely forgot that you could play, if you really wanted to, a bisexual goblin predator, if you really wanted to. Or maybe you wanted to be a lich pianist. You could do both of those and so much more. G'day, it's Al here from One Man Many Plans, and of course the blog of the same name, onemanmanyplans.com.au. Today we're getting into role-playing games once again, but today we're also getting into the quirkiest, strangest, really left-of-center role-playing games. And this was an idea I had a little bit over a week ago, but of course I couldn't talk about my quirkiest game experience without actually relearning the name of what it was. And so I did a big YouTube last week with as many clues as I could remember, which wasn't much, very, very vague, and amazingly, I got my answer. And I think that's one thing that I'm really, really starting to grow fond of here on YouTube. If you don't know something, put it in question form. Put it out there, see if anyone knows the answer. Sooner or later, someone will come along, like this legend, and just go, this is the game you're looking for. And in my case, the game that I was looking for has been out for quite some time. I was right in the memory that it was over 10 years ago. The game was Elona. And having a bit of a hunt around, I eventually tracked down a version of Elona. Apparently it's on Steam too. I haven't looked into this, but I found this on GitHub, I think from memory. I have been revisiting Elona Plus 2.15R version. Apparently there's plenty of variations and remakes and bits and pieces. I think obviously the Plus is the advanced extended version. If you're an Elona aficionado, please feel free to correct me in the comments. I can't remember the very first version I played or which version I played, but the one that I'm working on at the moment or playing through at the moment and just laughing my ass off at the moment is Elona Plus 2.15R. And I have to admit something, and that is I haven't really got deep into the game because I've been too amused with setting up the game. If you've never played Elona before, you have so many different options from the very start when you're building a character. It's not just a case of here's a prefabricated character, grab it, go, explore the world, save the girl, save the princess, save the world kind of things. No, you are literally building someone from the ground up. And I have so many notes here because there's a lot going on in Elona. One of the first things that you do is you actually have to pick your alias. So before you even pick your name for your character in Elona, the quirky thing is you've got to pick an alias. And what I didn't realize until a couple of playthroughs is that they change all the time. They're randomized every time. So the last time I played this and rolled up a new character, I had a few options, and I'll share some of my favorites. I could have called my character, or they could have had the nickname, Earthquake Beast. Earthquake Beast. That sounds like a combination between John Tenter and Brock Lesnar. Earthquake Beast. Pretty cool. Or Painless Druid. What a nickname. Not sure how you get that nickname, but you could have your alias as Painless Druid. Lunatic Equity. Very, very fancy. Still into the chaos side. Fantastic. But I think my favorite in this bunch, and you can re-roll it if you can't find anything that you like, had to be demonic sex. Imagine having that as your alias, your nickname. My character's nickname, hello, nice to meet you, I'm demonic sex. Great start to playing Elona. Race selection is what's coming up next. You could play as a dwarf if you really wanted to. You can play as a fairy. If you just don't feel that fairies are represented enough in role-playing games now, you can play as a fairy in Elona. You can play as a goblin, which is pretty cool because there's not too many role-playing games, quirky or not, that you can play as an actual goblin. You certainly can in this. You can play as a golem. Golem. You know, they're usually made out of mud or wood or stone or some kind of exotic metal by dwarves. You could play a golem. You can play a mutant as your race selection. So whether you think you're a Ninja Turtle or something else completely different, something from the Chaos Wastes, you can play a mutant. You can also play as a snail and a lich. the undead. So you've worked out your nickname, you've worked out your race. The next part is your class selections. And they've got the stock standard role-playing game fare in Elona too. So if you really want to play a warrior, you can play a warrior. And apparently if you play a warrior golem, they're really, really strong. Some of the other skills in your repertoire are a little bit diminished because, you know, it's big and strong, you're not that smart, probably not that agile, all of those kinds of things. Thief, pretty self-explanatory. You can play as a wizard. You can play as an archer. You can play as a priest. Fantastic. Stock standard, great. Nothing too exciting there. But then here comes the other quirky part about this game. You can play, if you want to, as a farmer. Not like Dungeon Siege, where you start off as a farmer and develop your skills and become a warrior, an archer, a wizard, and all those kinds of things. So you can play as a farmer and grow and level up as a farmer. You can play as a predator if you really want to. I don't think that's the same as in the movies, but you know, if you want a goblin predator, you can. You can play as a tourist. Not really skilled in anything. Let's be honest, one of the harder playing classes. You can play as a pianist. Yep, playing pianos in Elona. So that does mean that you can play a snail tourist, or you can play an undead pianist, or you could just do a dwarf warrior and be really, really boring. But I don't think you want to with so many different options. You've worked out your alias first, you've worked out your race, you've worked out what kind of class selection you have, and then this question comes along, your gender selection. How many games give you a gender selection outside of male or female? In Elona, you have a choice of male, female, male, question mark, female, question mark, bisexual, or unknown. So it's covering all bases there. And that's just a very, very small taste of the character selection, because you've got perks and other things that you can add to. And the other part about it, I mean, obviously a lot of people have been working on this game for quite some time, is that if you feel that that doesn't represent your character enough, you can change things around. You can change your class selections to whatever you like. So if you want to be a donut shop owner, you can write that in. You can type that in. You can change your race selection. So if you identify as an umbrella, you can have a character who's an umbrella. It won't show on the screen as an umbrella, but in the stats, it'll say you are an umbrella. There's a lot of customizing options just in the creation of this. And then you finally get to the cave that I remembered from playing it years and years ago. And then you can venture out and do different things. And it just gets a little bit stranger from there. As I said, I haven't gone too deep into the actual playing of the game because I've been too amused just reliving the whole creation thing, because it can take you quite some time to work out exactly what kind of weird, obscure character you want to roll up in this thing. But the first town that I got to, one of the messages pops up and it says, "Oh, your long-lost creature has rejoined you after all of this time." You're like, fantastic. Here's your choice: dog, cat, little girl. What? You can have a dog or a cat follow you around and fight battles, or you can have a little girl follow you around and fight battles. So your lich pianist can have a little girl probably doing more of the heavy lifting in the combat side of things than you can, unless you're throwing spells and that kind of stuff. So just, wow, it is quirky. I can't go into too many details than that. It's one of those things that you really have to download, install, appreciate. I've tried to grab some snapshots of this, which isn't easy. I've also tried to film some of it using, you know, some onboard filming software, but because it's sort of so small on a bigger screen, it's come out weird. But anyway, Elona is the game that I have been looking for, that I've been talking about here. Like I said, it's all over the shop. There's previous versions, there's remakes, all of that kind of stuff. I use the Elona Plus 2.15R version, and it's just all come flooding back about how quirky and how different this game is. And that's the perfect illustration of quirky games that I'm talking about today. So I'd love to hear yours. I'd also love you to like and subscribe if you've got to this point of the video and you haven't yet. But maybe it's not, you know, some roguelike Elona that's really got your vote of approval or your number one recommendation for the quirkiest game out there. There's some other quirky games out there, some famous, some not. Definitely got to highlight Planescape Torment from 1999. Absolutely cult classic game. You awaken in a morgue as the immortal Nameless One. You've got friends like a floating skull that you can give teeth to, and you've got to work out who you are. And that's so different than a party of dwarves, you know, freeing up the minds full of goblins and those kinds of things. So Planescape is one of those ones, and it's so well written, and it's got so much great voice acting, and it's more sort of role-playing and adventure than actual combat. Maybe that's your quirkiest game. Another one that you might remember or you might nominate as the quirkiest game, Lionheart, Legacy of the Crusader. It's an alternate Europe game. Very, very strange. I just remember it being a bit of a chore, just trying to trot through all the enemies. And if you didn't have the perk that gave you life points every time you attack something, I think it was like vampire powers, you really, really struggled because it was kind of part role-playing game, part Diablo-style hack and slash. You were the heir of Lionheart the Crusader, and you were working with Leonardo da Vinci and Galileo. You fixed his telescope, and Joan of Arc was in there. So it was quirky in the fact that I don't think there's too many role-playing games set in that particular era, in that particular style. So it was different. Apparently, it was a bit of a chore to make and a bit of a mission with everything that the studio was going through at the time. That might have been your quirkiest game out there. What else are we missing? What's a game that you have found to be quirky? And it doesn't have to be the whole game. Like Elona is a very quirky game from the start. Lionheart is a quirky game in the fact that it's just in a different universe. Maybe it's just one or two things in a particular role-playing game that you go, this is different to everything else and I enjoy it, and therefore I'm saying this one is the quirkiest. Come to think of it, Fallout, the first Fallout would have been quirky because there weren't too many games of that ilk. And it's just really started up this beautiful love and universe of post-apocalyptic video gaming. So maybe it was Fallout the very, very first time you tried it. Maybe it was Fallout 3 and you walked out of the vault and you went, wow, this is nothing like I've ever experienced. As I said earlier on, maybe it was something that was way back when, and it had a quirk or a feature in it that you just went, oh, this is the best ever. And now that I've been talking about this, there's another one that springs to mind. I'll have to track down the name of it. I might chuck it in the comments when I remember what it is. But there is a game where you wake up as two people and you're playing a good knight and a death knight, or I think a healer and a death knight, and you can switch between the two of them. And when you level up, you are leveling up both of them. You're leveling up the good side and you're leveling up the bad side. And I think, one could have thief skills and classes and the other one's a badass. The death knight was definitely the better of the fighters. And you could switch between the two of them. It'll come to me, whatever that is. But I'm so happy that I found my quirky game nomination, and I'd love to hear yours. Please let me know in a comment below. As I said earlier, please like and subscribe. I'm getting close to 100 subscribers, which is awesome. That's a good feeling. It's far off 1,000. That's okay. Baby steps, Al. But let's get into some quirky games. What do you got for me? Let me know in a comment below.